Thank you, Jeff. My name is Scott Shepard. I'm a former white supremacist, member of the Ku Klux Klan, and many white supremacist organizations across the country. I want to try to guide my story in a direction that would help, especially younger people. I was targeted when I was real young. I was born in Indianola, Mississippi. I'd like to also add first, I'm alive today because of this man, Daryl Davis, and I'm really grateful for him. I was born in Indianola, Mississippi, which is in the heart of the Mississippi Delta. Very, very racist era at the time in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I was born into a very dysfunctional family, had an alcoholic father, very violent alcoholic father, and of course this group's at an age, of course it's going to be a little graphic, but I'll give an example. I had, living in the house, it was 5 of us, brothers and sisters. My mother. My dad was very abusive to my mother and very abusive to the kids. We had what they call space heaters. I'm sure a lot of you know what those are. But with these space heaters, besides space heaters, we kept a box of kittens. And we kept those kittens there to keep them warm as they grew up. My dad came in one night, drunk in rage, beat my mother, abused the kids, and he reached down in that box and he took them and threw them about 10 feet across the room and splattered them on the wall. This is just one event of violence I saw with my father, and at the age I was, with my mentality, I was real young, but I don't even think I was in kindergarten at the time, but it left a really severe scar with me, and I would say it instilled PTSD in myself and probably my younger brothers and sisters, older brothers and sisters too. That left me with no self-esteem. I was angry. I didn't like anyone. I hated myself. And I didn't feel like I had a home. I was looking for a place, to fit in, something that, I felt where I could feel love and, that kinship and family. And being in the Mississippi Delta, there was the Ku Klux Klan. It was a very prominent organization at the time. As they said, the White Citizens Council was also born in 1954 in Indianola. And of course, B.B. King's hometown is Indianola. I was looking for a place to fit in, and there was the Ku Klux Klan. They had a rally. I had a sister down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We went to visit over a summertime, and I looked in the phone book, and in the phone book there it was. Advertising in the phone book, the Ku Klux Klan, 700 Florida Boulevard, Denham Springs, Louisiana. And the head leader was Bill Wilkerson of Denham Springs. I rode past the office of the Ku Klux Klan several times and didn't find anybody there, but I found his address and went to his house. Now I'm talking about, I'm at the age of like 16 years old. And I went to his house, knocked on the door and told him what I was looking for and I was interested. He said, well, we got a rally down in Tupelo, Mississippi, coming up, meet us there. So I did. Ku Klux Klan took the arm, wrapped it around my shoulder, said, yeah, we understand you had a hard life. We'll protect you, be your family, teach you things, and they did. They just taught me the wrong things. I do take full responsibility for the things that I've done in my life. I don't blame it on anyone. I accept full responsibility. But I made bad decisions. And at that rally with Tupelo, I ended up signing up and joining with the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan from Denham Springs. I was very, very gung-ho at what I had done and thought I had really achieved something. I felt an immediate feeling of importance as soon as I took the oath. It was a very serious oath that I took. With this oath, I put it before my family, my brothers and sisters, and even my father and my mother. So I rose through the ranks and became a Grand Dragon, which is a state leader at the age of 19 years old, and got responsible for recruiting and a lot of things like that. But as a Grand Dragon, of course, there's different Klan organizations. There's about hundreds of them, Daryl? Yeah, 90 different Klan organizations, got different leaders, and beliefs may vary a little bit. But anyway, as I got older, I rose through the ranks. I was there for almost 20-something years. I got married, had kids. I lost relationships with my daughter, lost relationships with my mother, my sister. My family disowned me. But I kind of ignored those activities or them, disowning me, because I had so much hatred and dislike for myself built up inside of me that I didn't put any effort into repairing those relationships. I was in Nashville, Tennessee at one time, and I went to a restaurant and had been drinking and having something to eat. But I always had this little voice in the back of my mind that said, "Do you really believe the things you're preaching and the things you're doing?" And I had that because I was raised by a black lady. Black lady was Rebecca Scott Hawkins. She lived to be 104 years old. And we were real close, real family, even her family. And she was a caretaker for my grandmother. And then she was a caretaker for my mother when she was born. And then my brother, sister, and myself, I was named after her. That's where her name was Rebecca Scott, and that's where Scott came from. Well, Rebecca took care of me, pretty much raised me in my grandmother's home. But after I got involved with the Klan organizations, I put that relationship aside and didn't pay any attention or contact Rebecca Scott Hawkins at all. Like I said, I had that little voice in the back of my head, and I think that was Rebecca Scott Hawkins, since I was raised with her. I was involved with some of the most notorious Klansmen, white supremacists that there were, the civil rights murders in Mississippi. Byron D. LeBeckwith, who was my godfather, killed Medgar Evers, and I even had relationships with James Earl Ray and J.B. Stoner from Georgia, who was a very violent, anti-Semitic person, evil person, I would really say now. J.B. was really evil. Going through this, I ended up, like I said, with the leaving the restaurant, had a few drinks, something to eat, and I left the restaurant and got down the road, about a mile down the road, got pulled over by police. The reason I pulled over by police because actually law enforcement had been watching me, because there'd been some mail bombs going on off in Georgia and Alabama at the time, and it had killed some people. They found out the person who did it was actually not a white supremacist. He was just trying to portray it as a white supremacist plot to take the heat off himself and to, I guess, actually start racial trouble in the country. Well, the FBI had been watching me, and I'd been on the news because there was a rally in Pulaski, Tennessee, that that I played a big part in and put together, filed a lawsuit, a federal lawsuit on behalf of the Klan. So that really, like I said, threw me in the spotlight, and they were keeping an eye on me, and they pulled me over about a mile down the road. I had, I failed the sobriety test. I had a weapon underneath the seat of my car, and it wasn't just a pistol. It was a weapon, a very dangerous weapon, an assault weapon. I had that, so that threw me into the court system. And when I was in the court system, I got a hold of a public defender. And that public defender contacted me, made an appointment. I went to his office. When I went to his office, I knocked on the door, and he said he'd be right with me. Well, a few minutes later, after he called me into his office, I walked into his office. I think I took about 2 or 3 steps and stopped. And I stopped dead in my tracks, and I said, oop. This public defender was black. And I knew at that time I wasn't going to get the defense that I needed. He was going to see my background and know who I am and not defend me. I was wrong. He defended me 100%. His name is Daryl, and he's in Memphis, Tennessee. And we're good friends today, but Handel defended me to the best that he could. And during that time, I came up with a plan. I didn't come up with a plan. The plan had already been used many times. I was just copying it. I was going to go to an alcohol and drug treatment center, get the paperwork after 30 days, take it back to the judge and get the charges dropped. Well, I went to the alcohol and drug treatment center, walked in. The director pulled me over and he said, we got black patients here. Patients of different religions, sexual preferences. Are you going to be able to, handle that? I said, yeah, I just want the paperwork and take it to the judge and go on with my racist life. I went to the treatment center and walked in, and what I didn't expect was when I walked in one person and came out another. The exposure to everyone in that treatment center of all color, religions, all background, sexual preferences, just the whole gamut of people from all parts of life. And I walked into this place and these people were showing me love and respect and compassion. And they knew who I was because it'd been all over the news and they knew I was coming there. But they were showing me love and respect. And these are the same people that I was showing hatred and anger towards and even sometimes wishing death upon. Well, I left that treatment center a different person. I didn't grasp at the time what exactly went on in that treatment center, but I knew something had happened. Well, after I got out of the treatment center, I did go on with my racist life, so I became an Imperial Wizard of the Old Murder Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. And after becoming an Imperial Wizard, I found out from those members they wanted to be very violent and they were planning on really killing people. They had access to Stinger missiles from Alabama Army surplus, not surplus, but what is it, Daryl? Depot. And they had access to all kinds of weapons. And at that time, I had, like I said, the war still going on in the back of my head and the things that happened at Cumberland Heights. I took a cold, hard look in the mirror, and I saw the problem. The problem wasn't people or race, different religion, sexual preference. The problem was Scott Shepherd, and I was looking at him in the mirror. So I left that Klan rally in Alabama, the last one I went to. I left it and I never went back. But I still was tiddling on the fence a little bit, not knowing, what I need to do. And then I had to go to Baton Rouge, Louisiana again. My sister who had breast cancer. My sister had breast cancer stage 4, and she was laying in the hospital bed, and we had a lot of time to talk. And she asked me, she said, "Scott, the things that you've done in your life, do you regret it?" I said, "Very much so, I regret it, but there's nothing I can do about it." Well, she sat there for a minute. She said, "Well, you can take what you've done and take it and use it and help people. Help younger people." It actually turned out to be adults too, but help younger people. Keep them from falling in the same trap that I did. And I heard what she said. I didn't act on it at that time, but I heard what she said. She died 2 days later. After she died, this was during Hurricane Katrina. I was working in the federal compound. I'm a funeral director and embalmer. And with all the deaths and stuff from New Orleans, I was working federal compound with the recovery of the deaths. And I walked into the same situation I did at Cumberland Heights. It was people from all over the United States. Different religions, different races, different sexual preferences. They didn't know my background, though, but I was still thrown into that situation. And those people treated me the same way, with love and compassion. And these are the same people I was showing hatred towards. Well, we finished that mission of Hurricane Katrina, and then I got back to the Memphis, Tennessee area at the time where I was living. I got sick. And after I got sick, I ended up in the hospital. I had to have 3/4 of my stomach removed and almost died. I ended up back at home recovering from the surgeries. And I had heard about Daryl Davis when I was in the white supremacist movement. And when I heard about Daryl Davis and saw what he was doing, going to these different Klan rallies, and these are some of the people that I knew, I said, "This man's crazy. Nobody's going to listen to him." And I probably called him a lot of, very, very foul words, including the N-word. But I lay there and I was recovering. Discovery Channel came on at that time, and it was a story about Daryl Davis. And this time, what was said made sense. What Daryl said made sense. So I found Daryl Davis on Facebook. I reached out to him, and he responded. We corresponded a few times through Facebook and got each other's phone numbers and talked to each other. And of course, he invited me along with Jeff to appear in a documentary, Accidental Courtesy, that I recommend you see. It's very, very educational and explains a lot. But I reached out to Daryl Davis. He responded, and we became, we started communicating. And then he came to Memphis and met me. Now, I was in the hospital when he met me. And I think we almost ended up in jail, both of us. Bringing cameras into a hospital didn't work too good. But After making contact with Daryl Davis, we developed a relationship that not only became a friendship. That friendship turned into a brotherhood. He's my brother. It doesn't matter what anyone says, Daryl Davis is my brother. And that pretty much leads me to where I am today. Daryl has taught me a lot about life. Love, respect, and compassion are the main things that we need to focus on in this country, regardless of race. I use the example when I was in the white supremacist movement. If you have a cafeteria, and of course, different races sit at different tables where they feel more comfortable, and I understand that. I mean, that's okay. But I use that as an example of, see, these are different races. They want to be separate too. And I use that as, pretty much to promote white supremacy. Now I use it. We got this same situation. All you have to do is get up off the seat and walk across the room and sit down with someone else of a different race and start a conversation. And during that conversation, you speak to them, probably, there's Daryl and Jeff, and I both say probably 5 or 10 minutes, and you find out you got something in common. Daryl and I had a lot in common. It turned out, he's a musician. I came from Mississippi, grew up on the Mississippi blues, B.B. King, and like I said, it was just a love brotherhood from the very beginning. And that leads me where I am today with love, respect, and compassion for everyone. And if we don't do this, we're not going to make any progress. And I'm hoping to reach a lot of young people with some of my talks and adults also. But I hope that y'all can understand kind of where I'm coming from, Jeff's coming from, and especially Daryl. And I appreciate y'all listening to me, and I appreciate y'all having me.
I want to say, about Jeff and Scott and talk about the power of conversation. A missed opportunity for dialogue is a missed opportunity for conflict resolution. Nothing gets resolved without talking about it, And you start, how further extreme could I be looking at me? I'm sitting here with a former neo-Nazi and a former KKK person, okay? When they were in, we were like this far apart. But you spend 5 minutes with your worst enemy, you will find something in common. And that gap narrows. You keep on talking for another 5 minutes, you find more in common, and it narrows some more. And now you're in a relationship. You may not be best friends, but you're cordial with one another. You keep on talking, you find more in common. And now you're heading towards a friendship. And by the time you get here, you find that the trivial, you have so much in common at this point, you find that the trivial things that you have in contrast, such as skin color, or whether you go to a church, a synagogue, a mosque, or a temple, begin to matter less and less. And then you begin to wonder, why was I like that in the first place? Too many of us have heard the term and believed it at the time. When we were growing up, we were told, a tiger does not change its stripes. A leopard does not change its spots. We've all heard those, that saying. So why would we think that a Klansman would change his robe and hood? Or a neo-Nazi would change his swastika armband, or what have you? Well, it's true that a tiger does not change its stripes, and a leopard does not change its spots. Why? Because they were born with those stripes and those spots. A Klansman and a Nazi are not born with their Klan robe and hood or their swastika. That is a learned behavior. And anything that can be learned can, guess what? Be unlearned. It may take a little bit of time, because oftentimes people don't just become that overnight. They grow up with it. They saturate themselves in it over time, and they become that because they get surrounded by an echo chamber. So just like it takes time to develop that ideology, that philosophy, it takes time to shut it down too. So we have to invest the time. And the most important thing is this, not just helping to get people out of that way of thinking and out of that ideology, but when they get out, we must also be there to support them. Because when they get out and they leave and they renounce that ideology, like you heard these two gentlemen do, guess what? They can't go back because they have betrayed their family. You know, the NSM became his family. The Ku Klux Klan became his family. And you take an oath to join these organizations, and now you're going to quit and talk bad about us? You know, you can't go back. So they're out here swinging in the wind with no support system. So that's why it's important that when somebody comes out, you've also got to provide them some stability, some anchor, you know, to get them on their feet and get them where they can support themselves, because there's a lot of disdain for people like this, because joining these kinds of organizations carries a stigma with them. You know, you think about some Klan person or some neo-Nazi, there's always going to be ex-neo-Nazi Jeff Stoops, former Klan leader Scott Shepherd. Why do we have to put that title? If they're a former or they're ex, then get rid of it. Let them start their life afresh. Give them that support system. You know, that's what we do. That's what Beyond Barriers does when Jeff's organization helps pull people out. That's what I do. I'm here when people come out because of me or whatever. I give them that support, and that's why they're sitting here on this stage. You know, they could go away quietly and live their lives and move away from their former buddies and all that kind of stuff, you know, and not have to suffer the insults and the disdain because people don't like, ex-Klan members or ex-neo-Nazis or whatever. But they are here because they truly believe in the mission that they are pursuing of helping to get people who are still in those movements out and to prevent young people from coming into those movements. You know, it bothers me a great deal that we as Americans consider ourselves to be the greatest nation on the face of this earth. Don't get me wrong. Just like Jeff said, he loves his country, I love my country, Scott loves his country. Okay, so we're patriots here. But I do have a problem with that statement. Perhaps we are the greatest in this nation on the face of this earth technologically. After all, we, Americans, put a man on the moon. We did that, all right? And while Neil Armstrong was up on the moon walking around talking about one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind, we, Americans, were able to talk to Neil Armstrong all the way from Earth to the moon via satellite radio phone. We, Americans, invented that technology, right? Everybody in here has email. Everybody in here has a cell phone. You type a few words, type a few numbers, hit send. You're talking to people right next door in Georgia, or all the way out in California, or halfway around the world, Africa, China, Australia, wherever you want to talk. We invented that technology. So how is it that we as Americans can talk to people as far away as the moon, anywhere on the face of this earth, but yet too many of us have difficulty with talking to the person who lives right next door because he or she is a different skin color, a different religion, a different sexual persuasion, or what have you. It seems to me that before we can call ourselves the greatest, perhaps our ideology needs to catch up to our technology. And when we get them both up there, then we can truly brag about how great we are. Because folks, we are living in the 21st century. This stuff does not belong in the 21st century. It doesn't belong in any century, let alone the 21st century. We are living in space age times, so we've got to stop thinking the Stone Age mind. So thank you.
Thank you so much to Daryl, Jeff, and Scott. We're now going to take a couple questions from you guys.
Don't be shy.
Thank you for that. All three of your stories are fascinating and really compelling. I'm just curious how each of you felt viewing the January 6th insurrection events on the Capitol.
Could you repeat the question?
I didn't hear.
How did you feel watching the January 6th insurrection events on the Capitol by white supremacists?
I can say it was a tragic day for America, seeing that sort of thing. I can tell you from one of the many things that we do in our organization is we monitor far-right chatter, extremist chatter, far left, all that sort of thing. And a lot of times, and it may not be and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm saying from what we've gathered from monitoring those conversations and hearing what people are saying online, a lot of the far-right people that were engaged, or a lot of the right-wing people that were engaged in that behavior, justified it because of some of the behavior that was going on during 2020 with the riots and things like that. And again, I'm not saying one side's right or one side's wrong. I don't feel like I shouldn't do that. I used to be that person that made the divides, but I'm saying in their minds, they justified it. They justified it. They said, well, if the left can do this, we can do this too. And that's how they justified it. But I think anytime when people in our society are doing something illegal, I think everybody has the right to protest. That's inherently American. Freedom of speech is as well. But when you take that freedom of speech and then it becomes violence, or it becomes breaking into buildings or burning buildings or that sort of thing, and we can apply that to both sides. And people don't like it when I do that, but it's the truth. Both sides are at fault in situations like that. You can't say, if you're one of the people that's saying, you know what, the right is terrible for doing that, but at the same time excusing the riots of the left, or vice versa, and saying the left is bad, but the right is okay to do that, then you're becoming in that section of being that divider. And that's where as Daryl said, we've got to bring these conversations into the center. This right and left thing, what we're experiencing in the country is tragic. It is something that we haven't seen. It started, I want to say a lot of this stuff, and I'm not going to blame Trump. I don't want to do that. I don't want to cast it all on Trump. But we started seeing it when Donald Trump was president, and people were like, F Trump, F this, F that. Instead of, even if they didn't agree with the president of the United States, all the presidents before that in our lifetimes were always shown a bit of respect, at least. You can say, well, I didn't like Obama, or I didn't like George Bush, or whatever, but you still said that's the president. When Trump became president, all of a sudden, there was just nastiness coming, and we've seen the exact same thing since Biden has been president. It's like that's the narrative now in America, that you can be that disrespectful to the president, whether you like him or not, or whether he's done bad things or good things. Some do good, some do bad. It doesn't matter. But losing that respect, and that goes back to the dialogue and things that we were talking about. I think those type of actions is an action and reaction type of thing. And our country has got to get back on track, because we're seeing the exact same thing now, and we're so divided. That's why having the dialogue, having these conversations, and thinking about this, we can all do it in our own lives. It's not just about extremism. It's easy to say, I'm glad I didn't have anybody in my family that joined the Nazis or the Klan, but that type of thinking can lead to that. And all those people that were involved in those things were not necessarily extremists. They were regular people, just regular people from different walks of life that were swept up in those kind of things. And that's what can happen. That's what happened in Nazi Germany when Hitler came to power. People got swept up into it, and it was all okay, and that was the norm. And we're seeing little aspects of that here in the United States. I'm not comparing the United States to Nazi Germany, but I'm saying we're seeing aspects where people are not talking to each other, and it can lead to tragedy.
I pretty much, when I first saw it, of course I was devastated, yes. But it kind of threw a flashback to me of Charlottesville. And when I saw that going on at the White House, it reminded me a lot about Charlottesville. And when I saw Charlottesville, you saw the people with the ticket lights walking up and down the street. Walking through the campus, and they didn't have robes and hoods. You saw them the next day, you barely saw it. Well, you probably didn't see any robes and hoods. And it very much reminded me of what I always say, the robes and hoods are going to be a thing of the past. And SM Nazi Party uniforms are going to be a thing of the past. Just going to be regular, normal people, and it's that mentality. It's that mentality that's very dangerous. And the people that are mixed up in that White House ordeal, a lot of them had that mentality. And like Jeff said, some didn't. They just got caught up in a mess, garbage. And that's what it did for me. It reminded me a lot of Charlottesville, and a lot that we've got to do. Got a lot of work to do, and it's coming to that with no ropes and hoods. We're going to be fighting the mentality, and that's going to be very hard.
We all saw the same thing, and we all have different takes on it. We all saw things that actually happened, and we were right in our take on it. I saw another angle of it, and what I saw was what I've been hearing about since the 1980s, when I met with the head of the American Nazi Party, who told me about this. And the year 2042 is going to be a turning point in our country. I learned this in the 80s. And if you look it up, you'll find it's true. Like I said, I'm 64 years old. When I was a child, the black population in this country was 12%. Native Americans were 1%. Latino, Hispanic people, almost 2%. Asians, around 3%. Whites, around 86, 87%. Today, the census is taken every 10 years, every decade. All you have to do is go to Google and go to uscensus.gov, and you can check the stats every decade. Today, black people remain just over 12%, like 12.9, so they say 13%. So we really haven't grown. Native Americans remain at 1%. Asians have almost doubled. They're like at 5.9%, almost 6%. Hispanic, Latino people have more than quadrupled. They're at 17 point something percent. All right? White people today are at 59%. All right? So if you take just black people, say 12%, just white people, Latino, Hispanic people at 17%, that right there, 12 and 17, makes 29%. That's almost 1/3 non-white. This is happening. This country was built on a two-tier society. White supremacy at the top, slavery at the bottom. That's what built this country. And as we progress through the decades, we progress like this. Maybe like this, but never like this. All right? And it is well predicted, and you can see it yourself if you go to the uscensus.gov. You see the trend that in the year 2042, which is only 2 decades from now, for the first time in the history of this country will be 50-50. 50% white and 50% non-white. Non-white meaning black, Hispanic, Asian, whatever else. All right? Between 2045 and 2050, that's going to happen. Whites will become the minority in this country for the first time. While there is a large percentage of white people who say, I don't care, that's evolution, that's what happens, no big deal. They don't care. There's also a large percentage that does care. And what a lot of people in these white supremacist movements tell me is, Daryl, I don't want my grandkids to be brown. They call it the browning of America, or white genocide through miscegenation, through race mixing. So that's why they jump on this immigration bandwagon in order to legitimize themselves. Hey, we want to fight, illegal immigration too. Come join us. Well, when they say illegal immigration, they're not talking about people here illegally from Canada or the UK or Eastern Europe. They're talking about people coming here from Guatemala, El Salvador, Mexico, West Africa. Because if their kids were to marry one of those people, that grandchild would be brown. And that's what concerns them. And a lot of you young people don't know the term white flight. Your parents know the term white flight. There used to be a time back in the day when certain neighborhoods had covenants that if you bought a house in this neighborhood and you decided to move, you could not sell your house to a Jew and you could not sell your house to a black. That was written in the covenants. Okay, and of course, later laws got changed and so forth and so on, where, it was discrimination and people could get sued and go to jail for, housing discrimination and things like that. So you have what was called white flight. You had white neighborhoods, and when somebody who wasn't white moved into the neighborhood, sometimes the white family would move out to another neighborhood. And that was, you fly out. That's called white flight. Well, white flight barely exists today in our country because the American landscape has changed color, has become so colored, over the past, few decades that now anywhere you go, there's already somebody there who does not look like you. So white flight is out the window. And these people are feeling that their identity is being taken away. They're being erased. White people built this country, white people wrote the Constitution, this is our land, and so forth, and we're being squeezed out. That's the mentality of a certain group of people. And when you hear sayings like, take our country back, we're going to take our country back, things like that, let me tell you where that slogan came from. Take our country back was originally a Ku Klux Klan slogan. It came from 1954 when Brown versus the Board of Education desegregated schools. The Klan went crazy. They had all kinds of rallies. You can see footage of them with a burning cross behind them, standing behind a microphone. We're going to take our country back. I'm not going to let my little white boys and girls go to school with little N-words. We're going to take our country back, meaning back to segregation. All right? That was the slogan, take our country back. Fast forward. We go to 2009. I live 15 minutes from Washington, D.C. I live in Silver Spring, Maryland, right over the D.C. line. Okay? 2009, a new political party had just been born. And they called themselves the Tea Party. And their slogan was, take our country back. So they had a rally at the Capitol. Now, they didn't go busting windows and breaking down doors and attacking police officers and all that stuff. They didn't try to insurrect the Capitol. There are always rallies at the Capitol. Every other day, somebody's rallying on the steps, all right? They were there, and so I went down there to interview them because I was writing a book. And I said, why are you using a Klan slogan? Oh, no, we don't mean it like that. I said, you are aware, take our country back as a Klan slogan. Yeah, but that was a long time ago. We don't mean it like that. I said, well, you're leaving it open-ended. You're saying take our country back, but you're not saying take our country back from who or take our country back to what. It's left for interpretation. Well, sir, what we mean is we're going to take our country back to Republican rule. We're going to take our country back from the Democrats. I said, okay, that's fine. Why not say that? Close it off so there's no misinterpretation. Well, that's what we mean. I said, okay, well, maybe you can explain this to me. Because the last time I ever heard of a Tea Party was the Boston Tea Party, okay? And so the Boston Tea Party, as you all know from American history classes, was all about tax reform. So this new Tea Party back in 2009 was disguising itself as tax reformists. Okay, they were against Obama's tax reform measures and stuff. I said, okay, explain this to me. Jimmy Carter was a Democrat. Bill Clinton was a Democrat. Where was the Tea Party then? Where was Take Our Country Back during that time? There wasn't. But now a black guy is in the White House, and you're out here screaming, take our country back. What am I supposed to think? Well, sir, that's what we mean. And then they walked away from me. And if you go, just go on YouTube. Go on YouTube, every one of you. I want you to Google two things when you go home tonight. Google David Duke in Charlottesville, Virginia. David Duke Charlottesville rally. And you're going to hear him say that he was there to take our country back because Donald Trump promised he would take the country back. Those are David Duke's words. On January 6th, right before everybody marched down to the Capitol, President Trump came out and gave a little speech in front of the White House. Google that. And he says, I'm going to march down there with you. We're all going to be down there, and we're going to march to the Capitol, and we're going to take back our country. You cannot show weakness. You must show strength. Those are his words. And they went down there, and they didn't show weakness. They showed strength. But those words are very triggering to certain people. And when you look at that insurrection, what do you see? You see some guy in the Capitol Rotunda with a Confederate battle flag. You see somebody else in the Capitol Rotunda wearing a T-shirt that said Camp Auschwitz. What does that mean? Take our country back to what? Take our country back to slavery? Back to where Jews were being subjugated? That's what I see when I see those pictures. Okay? The Confederate battle flag has no place in the Capitol, and certainly not a Camp Auschwitz T-shirt. How many people did you see in that Capitol insurrection that looked like me? Not very many. So yes, there were people there who truly believed that that Donald Trump won the election and the election was rigged and they need to overturn the election. But there were also people there who believed that they needed to take the country back. They wanted to go back to a previous time. The Civil War was fought over slavery. I don't care what anybody says. I've been all over this country. In the North, in high schools, they teach you the Civil War was fought over slavery. In the South, in high schools, they teach you, no. The Civil War was fought over states' rights. Yes, it was fought over states' rights. The state's right to own a slave. Same thing, okay? And I want to say this about the Confederate flag, okay? Since I'm in the South, and you all see a lot of that kind of stuff down here. Now, I was born in Chicago, all right? But I have roots in the South. My parents are from Virginia, Roanoke and Salem, Virginia. I live in Maryland. Maryland is south of the Mason-Dixon line, all right? So I see a lot of Confederate flags too. But my parents are born in the seat of the Confederacy. Virginia was the seat where Robert E. Lee and all these other characters are from. Let me say this about the Confederate flag so you all understand this. What people call the Confederate flag, that crossbars and stars, that is not the flag of the Confederacy. That is the Confederate battle flag. The flag of the Confederacy were the stripes, red and white stripes, and the blue square with a circle of silver stars. That was the flag of the Confederacy. That crossbar thing, what we call the Confederate flag, was the Confederate battle flag. That was the flag that was in the Civil War trying to maintain slavery. Now, here's how I feel about that. I realize a lot of people don't understand that. Oh, no, Daryl, it's not about hate, it's about heritage. I've played in a lot of bands, a lot of Southern rock bands. I'm a musician by trade. I've played Leonard Skinner music. I've played the Allman Brothers. I've played Molly Hatchet and all these people. Some of them had Confederate flags on their record albums. Some of the bands I've played with had Confederate flags on their stage because they didn't understand. Let me explain something to you. We went to war, this country, our country, went to war against Great Britain. We beat Great Britain, which is why we celebrate what? The 4th of July, right? 1776. We beat Great Britain. There are plenty of Americans in this country of British descent. Their ancestors fought against this country, but they love their ancestors. They don't run out here, these Americans of British descent, they don't run out here and build statues to King George III and fly the Union Jack. Why? Because the loser does not get to build his statues and fly his flag on the winner's property. Okay? In 1941, on December 7th, Japan bombed what? Pearl Harbor. We went to war against Japan. We beat Japan. There are plenty of Japanese Americans in this country who have ancestry in Japan, and they love their ancestors, as they should. But they don't run out here and build statues to Emperor Hirohito and fly the Japanese flag. Japan lost. We went to war against Germany. The largest group of white Americans in this country, if you doubt me, look it up. The largest group of white Americans in this country are of German descent. The second largest group of white Americans in this country are of British descent. Okay? These German Americans, or Americans of German descent, they can find relatives in Germany right now. They can go back there and find the third cousin removed and whatever else. All right? We went to war against Germany. We beat Germany. These Americans don't run out and build statues to Joseph Goebbels, Adolf Eichmann, and Adolf Hitler and fly swastikas, unless they're neo-Nazis or something, because the loser does not get to build his statues and fly his flags on the winner's property. Guess what? Guess what? The Confederacy lost the war. They need to get over it. They don't, that's right. They don't get to build their statues and fly their flags on the winner's property. Now, anybody who knows American history knows that there were plenty of black people who fought in the Confederacy as well. My ancestors fought in the Confederacy. Okay? I'm a descendant of slaves. Slaves had no choice but to fight for their slave masters. So my ancestry comes from Virginia and North Carolina. My slave ancestors fought in the Confederacy. All right? Now, there are some black people who honor the Confederacy. Personally, I don't honor it. I could care less about it. But there are some who do, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. My feeling is this, and I don't speak for everybody. Those statues need to come down. They don't need to be ripped down and destroyed and torn up. No, that's part of history. Take them down, put them in a Confederate memorial museum, build a Confederate memorial park, put them there, and anybody who wants to honor them or whatever, fine. They can go there and plant flowers and plant a tree or do whatever they want to do. All right? But this is the USA, the United States of America, and there is only one flag. This is not the CSA, the Confederate States of America. The Confederacy lost. So I don't care what your ancestors did, they need to get over it. And so do you if you want to fly that flag. And so here's what I tell people, when they tell me, Daryl, I'm telling you, it's not about hate. I don't hate anybody, and these people don't hate anybody. They say, this flag is all about heritage. So I tell you what do you think about the Ku Klux Klan? Oh, I don't like the Ku Klux Klan. You're a bunch of haters. So I tell you what, you go to a Ku Klux Klan rally with me, and when you see those people marching around with the Confederate battle flag, I want you to go up to one of them and tell them, that's not what your flag stands for. Give you back your flag. And whether they give it back to you or not, just because you did that, I will come over to your house and I will take your Confederate battle flag and I will hoist it up your pole for you. If you do that, I have yet to have any takers. So think about that.